I said it a year ago, Corona will humble us all. And it seems that the tourism sector, that has over the years been dominated by a few associations, has revealed a can of putrid earthworms that are now doing their best to bury back into the darkness of the soil. Nrupesh Soni, who started the local is Lekker initiative with Yvonne Holtz last year to mitigate the losses tourism-affiliated businesses experienced as a result of lockdown, has accused the bigger tourism associations of not being inclusive.
This goes back to June last year when I've been fighting against the then chairperson of FINATA, that they used to keep all the information to themselves. They never shared it with the industry. Then I was told, no, associations form part of FINATA, they are the voice of the industry, and it reached a stage where in September, I think Confidential also did a report on this, they did the investigation, and it turns out that FINATA said that back then that they are responsible for, their members are responsible for 25 billion Namibian dollars of tourism in Namibia in 2019. And if you look at the members, I mean, Han Hospitality Association has 250, 280 members, TASA has 100 something. Overall, they have maybe 600, 700 members, many of them similar ones, same companies. Most of them are those who own tourism establishments. So Han is accommodations, but there are tour operators who are also members of Han. Tour operators and Tours and Safari Association, TASA, which is tour operators, but there are other members. But and like TAN is Tour Guides Association of Namibia. They have less than 100 something guides, or maybe just over 100 guides from the 2,000-3,000 guides we have in Namibia. Guides are not regulated or even listed by NTB or anyone. So we don't know how many guides there are. Same goes for media company, marketing company, craft center, craft guides. Nobody has a database because everything has been run through these associations who say they're voluntary, but you still have to pay. Like for Han, it's 4,500 a year. I think some starts from 2,000, but they can't pay that. So now you're denying them information that is supposed to be for the industry by you keeping it to yourself. There is a lot of self-focus on their members and themselves first, but must understand that the exco of Han or TASA, who is then also on FINATA, they all have their own companies or they work for their companies. So when they go to meetings and when they get access to information, that is never trickled down to the rest of the industry. When Ministry of Health is inviting somebody to discuss vaccines or COVID-19 issues or whatever it is about opening, they only invite certain people because they have been told that Han is the voice of tourism in Namibia. Now Han goes there on the pretext of going for the tourism industry, and then they only send the information to their 250 members. And on the information it says, I was there for behalf of the tourism industry. That is what sent last week. This is where it escalated last week. Why are the other 130,000 Namibians who directly and indirectly depend on tourism, they're being left out of this? And somebody has to make sure that the information goes to everyone. NTB is supposed to be, but they are regulatory authority. They're not the communication authority. That's what they say, which is fair. I mean, whatever they have. But they also don't send out newsletters and all. They have 5,500 registered members at NTB. Only 600 or 700 of them are at associations. And these are the ones getting all the advantage of everything. FINATA being on top of there also kind of is in the mix because they should also be distributing it to other people outside the associations. If you say you're the voice of tourism, you cannot do it just by yourself. Tourism has changed. When the associations were formed 30 years ago, there was a small group of people who started it. There wasn't much tourism. But now you are denying every Namibian, a new Namibian company, a new Namibian in tourism opportunity to grow because you push them away. You threaten them. You just don't give them the info that is needed to grow.
A Facebook page titled Project Whistleblower Namibia revealed some of these allegations and posted the information with a photograph of Gita Petzold, CEO of the Hospitality Association of Namibia, Han. While she declined to comment on the matter, she did say that this issue has far-reaching consequences and that Nrupesh was sowing discontent and division in the industry. I asked Nrupesh to expound on what has been happening behind the scenes.
Well, firstly, the meetings, when you say meetings, the problem is that they don't want to meet anyone. Even when journalists ask them these tough questions, they don't reply. That happened last year with FINATA chairperson. It's happening again. It's a repeat of what happened last year with now the CEO of Han. CEO of Han has been there for 25 years as a paid a salaried person. She's not a volunteer person there. So she's being paid to do a job. But what she's been paid to is to do a job for Han. But she goes around, Han sends her around as a representative of tourism, gets the info, sends it to Han. That's how they can justify 4,500 membership fees. And this is where things have to change. Our Namibian small guest houses cannot afford that. And then they lose out on accommodation things and all. The other side to it is, of course, Han also represents some big companies who then have tour operator deals where certain tour operators get better deals. Everybody is kind of linked in there. And that has to open up and change. I always say Namibia is one of the few countries where if you go on booking.com, the prices are cheaper. Prices are cheaper than the agents. Other countries, when you go, the agents actually give you cheaper prices. That's why you use an agent. But here, they're not being allowed any buffer or any flexibility. They're being told, no, you must increase the prices now after the local Lekker period is over, so that people can make more commission. Commissions go up to 50%. That's so all those things have to change. But it's not happening. There's no flow of information because everybody who voices their opinion is shut out. I've been told, you'll be shut out from the industry. This was last year already. And I've been fighting. I started a tourism forum for open information flow. The forum has gained 21,000 followers in two months. It's gaining 1,000 likes every 2 days. It's got 1.9 million views just because we put all the information out there for tourists, for people, everyone. So we can all share the info. There was a focus on Germany. There has always been a focus on Germany, yes. Even though there are hardly number of people in the world, they are not that big. I think it's a language thing, historical thing. And there has been, I won't say deliberate, but maybe more of a ignorant attempt to not even look at opening up. ETIA, which is Emerging Tourism Enterprises Association, which is the only predominantly black association in Namibia. That was started 10, 11 years ago with ministry support and ministry being the patron of the association. That's the only association that accepts everyone. Doesn't matter color, your business, even if you're not directly in tourism, they accept you, they give you opportunities, there are all the different parts to it. But ETIA has always been left out of Finata and Han's discussions, mainly because of that. I saw it last year when I was fighting Finata, when a lot of emails would not have ETIA in the CC, or ETIA's opinion wouldn't be asked. And ETIA was started by Dr. Sam Shikongo, who retired last year. And the information I've received, what I've seen, yes, because of that pressure and because the position Finata was put in, and they had a closed meeting, they elected Ms. Netumbo Nashandi as the chairperson of Finata, and she comes from ETIA. Now things are changing. So everybody's getting resistance. So now Han, instead of going through Finata, is going directly to these meetings because they don't trust Finata enough now, because it's new people. It's not their core group of people. In terms of Germany or them doing things for themselves, I know for a fact that Qatar Airways is not operating now until October. It's because of an email they sent out to Finata in October, and I think it was sent to NTB and others, asking for a feedback. How many clients, how many of your members, how many of your companies have used Qatar? How much do they depend on Qatar? Because Qatar needs to send this information to the head office to get feedback. Not one email came back. In fact, the email was never distributed to the members. Now we complain that Qatar is leaving, but they don't know the reasons behind it. It's because some people just don't want Qatar to come here. Otherwise, direct flights from Germany might be impacted. Others might be impacted. There's a lot more to it than meets the eye. And it's one of those things where, what can one do? If we don't raise and if we don't talk about it, if we don't change the structure. I don't know if you saw the flow chart, where a chunk of tourism industry information is being hijacked by Han and some others. We need to have something there.
Nrupesh Soni was involved in the establishment of the local Lekker tourism initiative, which saw many Namibian tourism establishments offering local rates which Namibians could afford.
It has been great, but there have been challenges. There have been challenges in establishments being asked, not so nicely by some tour companies or some bigger companies, to increase the prices. They don't want their tourists to see the cheaper prices. But any country you go to, you have local prices. We should just pick up and say, you know what, this is for locals. You're not a local, you pay tourist prices. Just decide on it. And this is where Han also is trying to pressure people to say, you know, you need to come back to original prices, things like that. We need to change that. We need to make sure, okay, coming back to the feedback, we had the Local is Lekker Expo in November. You know, we had 60 companies, all establishments giving local specials. We have companies like Mowani Camp, who made, I mean, their turnover was, I think, over 2 million just from locals in December. So that's great. It has shown everyone, and no company is willing to go back to normal prices. They will always have local specials. Locals need to have that confidence now, saying, we can call any lodge and ask for a local price anytime going forward. And that has changed. On the other hand, it was myself and Yvonne who started Local is Lekker, and we've had issues with my fight in transparency and inclusivity. This morning I resigned from Local is Lekker because that is having an impact with me fighting for more openness and inclusivity. People are being condemned for being my friends or people who know me because of that. And that is why they used to get through to people saying, yeah, but you won't be outcast from the industry. And people always obviously will say, yeah, you know what, then I don't want to fight. But that has to change. Look at NWR, who have been the biggest supporter of Local is Lekker. Look at a lot of the other big lodges. They all have realized that going forward, they need to have good local specials, not just local specials. They need to attract locals because they have survived on locals. Again, going back to that, hospitality, we have over 3,000 maybe accommodation places in Namibia, maybe just around 2,000. Only 250 are on Han, which is Hospitality Association. From the 250, only 40 or so give their feedback on the occupancy rates. Those 40 become the statistics for Namibia, Namibian occupancy. Why is that? That has to change. You know, we can't depend on those stats to say, oh, we have 10% occupancy. No, we don't. We have to take a wider audience, but nobody is looking at that. But occupancy has definitely risen. People have survived the last few months. In a week, it's a year for us to have the first case. And people have survived. People have changed their thinking and they have survived. People who haven't changed have been closing down slowly. So it's time to look at new ways of doing things, a younger frame of mind. Look at how other countries do it.
The vice chairperson of TASA, Margo Bishop, agrees that the initiative really helped some establishments after a tough lockdown.
Local is Lekker tourism has been phenomenal for the lodges and the tourism enterprises in Namibia. Namibian local tourism accounts at the moment for about 10% occupancy compared with international occupancy. So what it has done, it has helped lodges through a time. It's helped keep their staff motivated. It has helped keep them up and running. It's helped stem the hemorrhaging. And absolutely, this going forward, I see no reason why Namibians shouldn't carry on traveling through their own country. I think this has given a lot of people an opportunity, because our borders have been closed, to actually experience their own country for the first time. I was speaking to someone who has been living in this country for more than 20 years, and this past weekend she went to Sossusvlei for the first time. So this has given people that opportunity.
I asked Margo Bishop of TASA, which is the Tourism and Safari Association of Namibia, what she makes of the allegations made on the Project Whistleblowers Namibia page.
Well, if you look at tourism in Namibia, it's a very broad statement. There are at least 11 different tourism associations within Namibia, and they represent tourism entities right across the value chain, from tour guides, car rental companies, accommodation establishment, professional hunters, tour operators. And there is actually a membership association that is called ETIA. ETIA is the Emerging Tourism Enterprises Association. It was established in 2010, and one of their primary functions is actually to help emerging and new tourism enterprises to actually get a foothold in the market. Now, what I have to say is that these associations are all membership driven. So whether you want to join an association or not is entirely up to you. And there's absolutely no legal requirement to be a member of an association. So, for example, to join the Tour and Safari Association I represent, our membership requirements are that you adhere to the regulations as set out by the Namibian Tourism Board and by the Namibian government. And that's it. And so as a member-driven association, we can only disseminate information to our members. If you're sharing information with someone who hasn't signed up for that, that's the equivalent of spamming someone. I can only speak from a Tour and Safari Association viewpoint. All our membership rate structures and fees are laid out on our website. We are a not-for-profit organisation, and some of our rate structures haven't changed since 2017. So our most expensive tourism membership is full membership, which is a once-off application fee of 357 Namibian dollars. All our membership fees and rate structures are actually available on our website, and we're a not-for-profit organisation, so some of those membership fees haven't changed since 2017. Our most expensive tourism membership category is a full member, and that is a once-off registration fee of 357 Namibian dollars, and an annual membership fee after that of 3,696 Namibian dollars. And one of the things I'd like to point out is at the beginning of 2020 last year, when COVID hit and all tourism income stopped, TASA actually waived all membership fees for the year. So the role of TASA for its members is very fluid, and it changes depending on what our members need. So at the moment, for example, over and above the COVID dialogue that we're having, we're also representing our members with Home Affairs, with Roads Authority, and with Namibia Wildlife Resorts. In addition to this, we also represent our members in various public and private sector committees and boards. So, for example, we're involved in the Ministry of Work's new transportation bill. We're involved in the Marketing Advisory Committee with the NTB. We're also looking at the Namibian Training Authority. We're involved there as well. So all of these committees, all of this dialogue that we're having, it does take a lot of resources. So we do actually employ an office manager who is the face of TASA and represents our members and our board. And what we've actually done in the past, because we're not for profit, if we have excess funds available, we actually redirect these back into charitable endeavours that are tourism related. So we have donated money to TOSCO, which is the Tourism for Conservation Trust, and Eco Awards, which promote sustainable tourism in Namibia.
Tourism establishments, some of which have been in existence since independence, are being accused of hogging the industry and making life difficult for new players wanting to open up the industry. TASA's Margo Bishop does not believe this to be the case and welcomes more players to the industry. I asked her just how well the tourism associations actually work together.
We do actually. We've actually, there is a dialogue amongst the associations, and we've actually had to, that conversation, that dialogue, that what are you doing? How can we help you? Can we support you in this? What can we do? That conversation has increased tremendously over the last 6 years that I've been involved in the Tour and Safari Association.
The impact of lockdown on tourism worldwide has been devastating, and I asked both Nrupesh Soni and Margo Bishop to share their thoughts on when they think tourism may reach a semblance of normality.
By 2019, if you look at the yearly statistics of growth of tourism industry in Namibia, 2020 was projected to be the best year for tourism, with 26 to 27 billion Namibian dollars coming in for tourism. That's a lot. If you look at our yearly budget, this is about half the budget. So it's a lot of money that would have come in. But obviously a lot of the figures are inflated over the years, just like the construction industry, which has to now level off at some place. And this is where, going back, I don't think, even though it has been a big impact, it has been a big learning curve. You must remember, Botswana is still in lockdown. Other European countries, many countries are still in lockdown. We are way better off in terms of that than other countries. So I think a lot of lessons have been learned. Economic impact has been big, but I think we've supported each other. As long as the money stays in the country, it's flowing. And this is where we need to now focus on how to have that economy running parallel to the tourism economy. So if something changes, we have something to depend on. You cannot mix both. I think it's a year now, and we have reached a stage where people have to travel. A person is used to traveling. You cannot grow a country or person or anything without traveling. With tourism, the good thing is that now we are seeing a rise slowly. Some African countries are taking lead by being the first ones to allow people who have been vaccinated to travel in. And this is where we need to now look at. We were one of the first few ones who said, you know what, if you have a 72-hour test, any country is allowed. Now maybe we can take a step and say, you know what, if you have an approved vaccination, we can look at that if we have to open up. But then Namibians also must have that confidence that if we have vaccines, we're able to travel overseas, or we will travel overseas. We can't just sit here and say, okay, everybody come in the whole time. We can't grow our network, we can't grow the industry unless you actually travel to trade shows, travel to other countries and meet other boards, tourism boards. So, I mean, our ambassador in France has been doing a great job with UNW, World Trade Travel Organization. We had the Secretary General here, and we were one of the first countries listed there. So there are a lot of efforts being put in. But eventually it comes to our airports and immigration and our policies. So we need to look at those things now if we have to open up.
I wish I could answer that one. I wish I had a crystal ball. The problem, what we're facing there, is that it's not just what's happening in Namibia. It's what's happening here and internationally. So it's when our vaccine program will roll out, what international governments will view, when we will be viewed as a safe destination again. It's also what is happening in our source markets. Just yesterday we got a report that the Netherlands, for example, has gone into a hard lockdown again. Their COVID numbers are spiking, they're in the third wave. Australia is expecting to maybe resume flights in October. The UK, they also only announcing their roadmap for tourism recovery in the middle of May. So, these are things that we are in open dialogue with government about, but these are unfortunately things that we have absolutely no control over.
Finally, I asked Margo how she sees the so-called tourism rot playing out and what her hopes for the outcome are.
You know what, honestly, tourism is not an easy or a cheap industry to get into. Whether you're looking at opening a lodge, that is eye-wateringly expensive. Becoming a tour guide, that takes a huge commitment, both personally and financially. And even tour operating, which is seen as the easiest entrant into the market. When you start your business, you have to be out there knocking on doors, you have to be networking, you have to be marketing yourself. So that takes you out of the office physically, and you have to be overseas to do these things. But that being said, we absolutely need new entrants into the market. Prior to COVID, we weren't managing to cope with the demand for Namibia. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we have had tourism entities that have closed down. So when international travel resumes, we are anticipating that there's going to be a lot of pent-up demand because Namibia is a socially distanced destination. We have the wide open spaces. So once that starts happening, there's an absolute gap in the market for new entrants into the industry.